Welcome, friends, to this funeral service for Joanne Pepper. We begin with the chanting of the 121st Psalm.
Sinai el Harim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri Me'im Adonai Ose Shamayim Va'aretz Al Yitan Lamod Raglecha Al Yanum Shomrecha Hinei lo yanum V'lo yishon shomer Yisrael Adonai Shomrecha Adonai tzilcha al yad yaminecha Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka Ve'yareach balayla Adonai yishmorcha mikol ra Yishmor et nafshecha Adonai yishmor tzedcha uvoecha me'ata Me'ata ve'ad olam. Psalm 121. I lift my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, creator of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way, and your guardian will not slumber. See, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Adonai is your guardian, your protection at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. And Adonai will guard your life, your going and your coming, now and forever.
Death has taken our beloved Joanne Pepper. And our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence, there is lamentation. In their tears, there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, and be with them. For Joanne's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever. For her companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of her heart and mind that brought joy and happiness and now are a precious remembrance for the lifetime friendships that we see here in the sanctuary, for the love of family, of community, for her caring concern, her stubbornness, her generosity, her laughter, For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. And in this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred Scripture that brings us the ever new message of God's nearness, that tells of our kinship with the Creator in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. In the first psalm, we find the following: Happy are those who have not followed the counsel of the wicked, or taken the path of sinners, or joined the company of the insolent. But rather the teaching of God is their delight, and they live that teaching day and night. They are like a tree planted beside streams of water that yields its fruit in season, whose foliage never fades, and whose fruit always flourishes. And perhaps more than any other of the Psalms, the 23rd Psalm has brought so much comfort to so many over the years. Many of you received the text as you came in. Cantor Sachs will chant the Hebrew, and then I'm going to ask that you join me in the English. Cantor?
Adonai roi lo echsar bin hot eshe yarbitzeini al mei menuchot al mei menuchot yanaleni nafshi yeshovev yeshovev yancheni b'maglei tzedek yancheni b'maglei tzedek lemon shemo gam ki elech begeit zamavet lo irara ki atai madi shiftecha umishantecha hema yanachamuni aroch lefanai shulchan neged tzorerai dishanta v'shemen roshi kosi revaya ach tov v'chesed yudefuni kol yemei chayai kol yemei chayai v'shavti b'veit Adonai leyorech yamim Adonai roi lo echsar.
Together. God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. In his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, Yishem Adonai mevorach. God has given. God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. An ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us. And yet the centuries have taught us that the Keter Shem Tov, the crown of a good name, endures beyond the grave, and that there is strength in faith. So once again with Job we say, Adonai Natan, God, you have given, gave us Joanne Pepper, who will not be forgotten, and for all that was good and enduring in her remarkable life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai lakach, God, you've taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and your love. As we say, Yishem Adonai mevorach me'ata v'ad olam, blessed be the name of God, now and forever. And friends, I ask that we take just a few moments of silent prayer as we hold on to Joanne's memory, as we remember her love, her laughter, her strength, and we pray in silence.
Euleratson imrefi begionli bi lefanecha Adonai Tzuri, Tzuri, Vegoali. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my Redeemer.
Friends, members of the family, want to share some thoughts about Joanne, so we're going to hear in this order. First Rick, and then Callie and Jamie, and then Kathy. Rick, please.
Rick Stath, and I am Joanne's favorite son-in-law. And I say that, well, to be accurate, I'm her only son-in-law. And as far as being favorite, well, anyway, that's a little bit of a stretch. But first of all, on behalf of the family, I'd like to thank everyone for being here today to help us honor the memory of Joanne Pepper. We know many of you came in from out of state and very short notice. And you know what? Thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. So I have to say, I can't believe I'm even up here right now. I thought that Joanne Pepper would live forever. I was positive. And the reason I thought that Joanne would live forever is because it would have given her the golden opportunity to torture me for the rest of my life. And you know what? She would have enjoyed doing it, I guarantee you. Joanne and I had an interesting relationship. We were like two boxers who would get in the ring and try and beat the stuffing out of each other. And just to make it clear, our little sparring was never done with mean intentions. You know, over the years, it almost became sort of a running joke, and basically it was who could get the best jab in. And let me tell you something, she was a formidable opponent. Joanne was extremely well-read. She was whip smart. She knew everything about politics and religion. She was nobody's fool. And I'll tell you, she could defend her position. If she took a position, she could defend it very well. And this is classic Joanne, by the way, even if she couldn't defend her position, she would basically just run you over and trample you to death. Trust me, I have been trampled many times. And I think I see like Bridge Club friends out there, I hope you will agree with this. Joanne was never afraid to express her opinion. If she had something to say, you were going to hear it, whether you wanted to hear it or not. I remember one time my father-in-law, we were sitting around the table, and by the way, this is a classic Joanne story. We're sitting around the table, we're discussing the family business, and I can see Joanne leaning in, so I know she's gonna say something. So, and sure enough, she starts in, and for the next 20 minutes, she starts telling us how poorly we're running our business and all the bad decisions we've been making. And, you know, I got a little ticked off because one, she interrupted our conversation, and two, because the things she said, a lot of it, she was right. So she finally gets up, goes in the kitchen, and I turned to my father-in-law, and I said, Miff, you got to stop this. You have to reel her in here. And my dear, wonderful father-in-law, who I love dearly, and I'll never forget this, he looks at me and he says, stop her? Reel her in? Rick, that train left the station decades ago. So she comes back, and I'm a little wound up at this point because I got a counterpunch here. I have to give an uppercut here. And I said, Joanne, before you continue to assault us here, I'd like to know your resume, your business experience here. So we go over it, and she goes, okay, graduated high school, 1 semester of college, and then she quit because she didn't like it. She went to work for 6 months, and then she got married and never worked another day in her life. So I'm like, okay. I said, 6 months. All right, so I looked at her and I said, Joanne, just so we're straight on this, your impressive resume right here, and you're telling us what to do with our business. Excuse me, Joanne Rockefeller, if I don't take your advice right now. And now I thought I threw a pretty good punch, but Joanne, boy, she just dug in, and for the next 30 minutes, bashed us until finally Miff and I crawled away from the table in total defeat. She was a force. She really was. Now, you know, I know I'm painting somewhat of a harsh picture of Joanne, but she definitely had a soft, loving side to her, and that side was her family and her children, and literally any person other than myself. You know what? She loved her children dearly. Her son, Scott, you know, I always thought she was maybe a little tough on Scott, but now that I, you know, look at the big picture and I've raised a family myself, I realize that Joanne was really his greatest advocate. You know, all she really wanted for Scott was to be happy and live a nice life. That's all she wanted. And unfortunately, she survived her son. And when we buried Scott, I think we buried a big part of Joanne's heart with him. Her daughter, Kathy, I think Joanne's love for Kathy went way beyond the usual mother-daughter relationship. Just an aside, I don't know any daughter who was more devoted to her mother than Kathy. You know, over the past 4 years, Joanne was not well. She was very sick, and she needed a lot of help. You know, she had surgery, she was in rehab, infections, and in and out of the hospital, and it was sort of never ending. And you know what? Kathy was there every step of the way. She never missed an appointment. She was by her side at all times. And as my daughter Jamie said, Kathy literally put her life on hold so she could take care of her mother. And I can't tell you how many times she slept over at her mother's house in the bed next to her just to make sure she got through the night okay. I know how much she loved you, Kath. And I know how much she appreciated everything you did for her. She wouldn't have gotten nearly this far without you. Her granddaughters, Jamie and Callie, when these two came along, Joanne was beside herself. She doted on these kids. She spoiled them rotten. And she never missed a soccer game, a birthday party, a school event. These two girls had something special with their grandmother that a lot of people don't get. To have a relationship like that. She taught them how to do Jewish cooking, and to be that close to a grandparent and have that relationship, it's very special. It's one that I hope I have with my grandkids. Then the son-in-laws came along, and I learned something the other day, that both Ryan and Kid never really knew their grandparents. They died before the kids had a chance to really know them. So Joanne became their grandmother, and she took both of them into her arms wide open. She accepted them from day one, and they were family as soon as they came over here. And I know how she felt. I think she felt that the girls married the perfect boys for them. And I'll tell you why I know that, because if they hadn't, she would have let us know about it. Especially you two, she would have known about it. So I think she was very, very happy. And then the great-grandkids came along, and oh man, that was a level of love that was off the charts. When Miles, Jordan, and Blake came along, I think the rest of the kids might have fallen down the chart a little bit. I wasn't even on the chart, so it didn't matter. But I don't care how sick she was, how tired she was. When those kids come in, the years melted off her. And my favorite thing that she would do, we'd go to Joanne's for Shabbos dinner, and the kids would run around, and at one point she'd grab each of them individually, and she'd just grab them and hold them, and she'd say, I love you, I love you, I love you to pieces. And she would just hold them like this, like she was trying to capture something that she could take and keep with her forever. It really was a beautiful sight. I think she knew how lucky she was that she lived long enough that she could be in their little lives. It gave her such happiness. So you see, Joanne did have a nice side. She also had a wonderful life with great kids and a very special husband and absolutely the best son-in-law you could ever have in your life. I couldn't resist that because that's my last jab. So that's that. So Joanne, I hope you're flying. I hope you're flying among the stars, dancing the night away with Miff and the Goodsides and the Levins and all of your other friends who passed before you. So rest in peace, but keep your gloves up, kid, because this ain't over.
Oh, thank you. It's hard to put the last 33 and 35 years into words. Nana never missed a birthday, a holiday, a softball tournament, a track meet, celebrating a good report card, a high school graduation, a college graduation, weddings and anniversaries and babies. She was the biggest constant in our lives. She was always there. And even though we knew this day would be here, it still feels impossible that she is gone. Her presence was so fierce, it never felt like we would have to live without her.
Few people our age have spent decades with any of their grandparents. We were lucky enough to not only have our entire childhoods with a great-grandparent, but were established into early adulthood with all four of our grandparents. And not just alive while we were alive, but always present for every event, big and small. We are so thankful that our kids were lucky enough to have their Gigi, even if it was just for a few precious years and months.
Every Friday night was reserved for the Queen. Up until our very last Friday together, she would spend the week cooking and freezing and making sure we had a multi-course meal together. Her cooking was out of this world. If you know, you know. She was second to none with matzo ball soup, the authority for any Jewish holiday, and a master of a traditional prime rib dinner. She gave us both our love for all things cooking and entertaining.
Our Nana taught us a lifetime of lessons. She was incredibly calm and graceful in the face of adversity. She made friendships that lasted 70+ years. She was unbelievably generous. She kept a secret better than anyone. She taught us that you can never make pickles when you have your period or you'll ruin the whole batch. She was the hostess with the mostest and taught us that everything was worth celebrating. She fiercely loved her family.
She marched to the beat of her own drum and made sure you knew what that beat was. She would tell it like it is, even if it wasn't what you wanted to hear. She was honest to a fault, but we know it's because she loved us all so much. She called to check in every day to find out how her babies were doing and always had a pulse on what was happening in our lives every day. She knew who at all times had a cold, who had an ear infection, who had a basketball performance. She didn't miss a beat.
We thought we were the light of her life until Miles, Jordan, and Blake came. She could not get enough of her great-grandchildren and spoiled them silly with toys and clothes and candy and piggy banks and dessert and dessert and dessert. Once she learned how to use Amazon on her cell phone, there was no going back. They brought out the absolute best in her in these last few years. She was an incredible Nana and a supreme Gigi.
Nothing will be the same without her, but we will continue the legacy that she started for us about what it means to be a family. We watched her lovingly care for us all of our lives, and particularly for our Papa and Uncle Scott, and watched our mom put Nana first for years at the drop of a hat. We know what it means to love and take care of someone because of the example they have set. She was so proud to be our matriarch and proud of the family she raised.
Nana, we'll miss Friday nights and sometimes Sundays too.
We will miss the phone calls where we had to talk you through how to fix your Roku so that you could watch Korean soap operas.
We will certainly miss that it was always the Roku's fault and never yours.
We will miss beautifully decorated tables and over-the-top holiday celebrations throughout the year.
We will miss your food.
We will miss you kicking our butts in Mahjong and Gin Rummy.
We will miss how, like us, you could burst into laughter and could not be controlled.
We will miss your giant sunglasses, your colorful home, and how you always, always made sure we prioritized family and dessert.
I've never hosted Thanksgiving or Rosh Hashanah, Passover, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, birthdays, anniversaries, and most Shabbats. She was insistent. She was incredible. Her tables, flowers, candies, themed decor were one thing, but her cooking was second to none. I don't believe many at her age hosted her family and friends till the end. Every celebration was at that table. We knew how lucky we were until we tasted others' cooking. Mom was cut from a different bolt of fabric, strong, durable, and very colorful. Everyone here knew her, so I don't really have to describe her. I will use your words instead, left in voicemails and in conversation. A force, capable, accomplished, incredible, amazing, poetic, generous, take charge, outspoken, efficient, and consistent. Her survival skills these past years tested us, sustaining 2 major falls with severe bone breaks, 3 months in rehab for her ankle, and where she must do the hard work to get home, and she did it. The shoulder break on her dominant side was a tough one, but her team of ladies are here today, and I must acknowledge them. Isabel, Mary, Christian, and Ita. Thank you for your hard work to get her back. But Sharon became her right hand. You were the lifeline I needed for me to get any of my own life at all. You incredible angels may not have known how to cook when you started, but let me tell you, you are all accomplished today because of Mom's direction, and direct she did. Her legacy and her recipes, which we all have, I'm convinced Sharon makes better potato latkes than I do. Her actual legacy and sole reason for living are our three little smallest family members. Miles, named after Miff, and Jordan, who I called Jojo. I'm not sure who that one was for. And our miracle, the best secret Mom ever kept, is Blake Elizabeth. This final gift from Mom to us and to you was how she departed, surrounded by her best friends at a mahjong table and evidently having a banner day. They were the last to see her. I was the last to speak to her. I'll end with this reading that thankfully I chose to read to her at our Hanukkah table this year. As we look back over time, we find ourselves wondering, did we remember to thank you enough for all that you've done for us, for all the times you were by our sides to help and support us, to celebrate our successes, to understand our problems and accept our defeats, or for teaching us by example the value of hard work and good judgment, courage and integrity. We wonder if we ever thanked you for the sacrifice you made to let us have the very best, and for the simple things, like laughter, smiles, and times shared. If we have forgotten to show you our gratitude enough for all the things you did, we are thanking you now, and we are hoping you knew all along how much you meant to us. And for those who've ever played mahjong with her, you can just hear it. That's it.
Dear Kathy and Rick, dear Jamie and Ryan, dear Callie and Kid and family and friends all, there's a word I keep hearing over and over again, that Joanne Pepper was a force of nature. Whether she was preparing a Shabbat dinner or holiday celebration, running a golf tournament, or sharing her unsolicited opinions about business, she did nothing halfway. Her love and absolute devotion to her family, her children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, son-in-law, and grandsons-in-law was both fierce and absolute. She was a woman of principle, and her intensity and passion were both magnetic and irresistible, and her gravitas was more than simply the result of her energy and talent. It was gravitational. She drew you in, and she made you feel special when you were in her orbit, and when you were pulled into hers, you had no choice but to hang on and enjoy the ride. Joanne was born here in Denver on August 19th, 1934. Her parents, Jack Turner and Libby Fishman, divorced when she was a young girl. And when her father was in World War II, her mom, Libby, moved her to San Antonio to be with her cousins. Then she came back to Denver. Both parents remarried. She went to Cheltenham Elementary and Gove Junior High and graduated from East, skipped a grade. She was younger than all of her classmates, but that didn't matter. As we've heard, she went to one semester at CU Boulder. That was enough. Shortly thereafter, she met a dashing young man named Miff Pepper. And as the story goes, they met at a bridal party for Darlene Schwartz. Miff was a groomsman and she was a bridesmaid. And that was it. They were engaged 3 months later, married 6 months after that on March 14th, 1954 at the BMH with Rabbis Edelman and Kavar. They had an amazing honeymoon. They went to Vegas, San Francisco, Hawaii, and then came back. And Miff went back to work, and he worked hard in the heavy jewelry or scrap business, as it's known. They built a home on Cedar and Jasmine and raised their family there. Scott was born in 1957, Kathy in 19 59. Miff and Joanne had an amazing marriage. They had so many wonderful friends, and of course, Joanne had friends from childhood, Sally and others, who knew her entire life, and she was close with them, and literally until the day she died, as we heard. They played cards, shared their lives together, simchas, and shared sorrow as well. She and Miff traveled with friends throughout Asia, Japan, China, Thailand, Vietnam. They went to Europe, and so many golf trips with Green Gables friends. They were very involved here in the community, pillars of the community. At BMH, they were leaders. They formed the very first chavurah that lasted many, many decades. She was in charge of the first BMH cookbook, and she was president of the Women's League. How many years did you and she cook for the Purim Carnival, Kathy? Of course, Green Gables was the center of their social life. She ran every single golf tournament at Green Gables. Miff and Joanne were very involved in philanthropy, but they weren't loud about it. They were quiet. They didn't need accolades, but they knew what they had to do, whether it was Shriners Hospital, Shalom Park, the Allied Federation. They supported all the synagogues, all the cemeteries. They didn't like being honored, but they were extraordinarily generous. And of course, as we've heard so beautifully, family was the most important part of her life. Yes, she was a devoted wife and mother. Miff worked so long and hard at the scrapyard. Joanne ran their home. And yes, she was a great cook. Jackie Frazen, and she made the very first video of Jewish mothers cooking I think there ever was. She passed on that love of cooking to her granddaughters, as we've heard so beautifully. And the fact that she cooked Shabbat dinners every week for 4 generations until last Shabbat, truly remarkable. And yeah, she had strong opinions. Rick, you've shared that with us. She loved golf. She loved entertaining. She loved travel. She loved her bridge group passionately. And she played the day she died. You all sat with her. And she said, I might be tired. I'm going to go home. And she said, no. She was going to leave early, and then she was winning and didn't want to give up. As a mom, she was always there. Kathy, as a competitive athlete from age 8 on, she took you to tournaments every week of the summer, took you on trips all around the country, never complained. And she was never critical of your games, unlike the other tennis moms that you, soccer moms too, but this is tennis. She didn't push you. She supported you and let you grow on your own. She was a very competitive golfer. She was involved deeply in her children's lives. She always volunteered at school. And yes, she had high expectations of you. It wasn't always easy, but you met them. She was fair, but yeah, she was tough. And those Shabbat dinners, they were sacrosanct. You would bring your boyfriends over to Shabbat dinners, and she would feed them, and they loved coming to your house. She was a one-woman ambassadress of Judaism to so many. And of course, as a grandma, so generous. She was at every event, every play, every graduation, every sporting event. She was tough and opinionated. She told you to what she thought, and you had to take it. And she was usually right. She spoke every day to her granddaughters and her daughter and her great-grandkids, we've heard. She watched the girls when they were sick with her chicken soup and Jell-O. That's a strange combination, but I guess it worked. And after Miff died, it was hard for her. Part of her was taken. But she found the strength to overcome grief, physical limitations, and she had to reinvent herself. She was no longer part of a couple. That was hard for her. To make matters worse, after Miff died, she had some, as we've heard, some difficulties falling and breaking her ankle in several places. Spent several months at rehab at center at Lincoln. And the bridge game and the mahjong games came to her. You, her friends, were so loyal, so loving, so caring. After rehab, she was successful and she worked so hard. She threw a dinner party at Chris's for the entire family. She had a regular table at Ruth's, by the way, and other places as well, just to say thank you. And Kathy, as others have said, you were amazing in the way that you took care of your mother. You put your mom's needs before your own. And your task now is going to be to find ways to take that energy and do it for yourself and your children and Rick and your grandkids as well. Of course, Joanne's life took a tragic turn when her beloved Scott got ill and was taken from the family circle. When he was diagnosed with cancer, it was clear that he couldn't take care of himself anymore. He moved into her house. Kathy, you were there for him and your mom. She was stoic. She saw it was time and she said, don't suffer anymore. You can go. It's okay. Many of her friends had also lost children and grandchildren. You were there for Joanne, giving her the support she needed. And as we've heard, she had a special relationship with each of her grandsons-in-law. Kid, she welcomed you with open arms and made you feel special. Those family vacations together, you got to know her more. You golfed together. She yelled at you because you would lose her golf balls. But you were okay because you took care of the Roku TV, so that put you on the... And Ryan also, she was the only grandmother you knew. She was so proud of you. When no one else could go to the World Series, she was there in the stands, even though it was so close to the weddings. She called both of you honey, and she meant it. Towards the end of her life, Joanne said thank you a lot more than she did when she was younger. She died a peaceful death, a remarkable death. Even though she had some mishaps, she was vital until the end. And she died doing what she loved most, being with dear lifelong friends and talking to her family. Rabbi Melinda Pankin wrote a beautiful poem that I want to share with you. With every death, we become someone new, defined and changed by loss and absence. Once married, once a parent, once a sibling, once a child, once a friend, now single, now childless, now only, now orphan, now friendless, remade permanently by illness or accident over the course of years or months or even seconds, left with grief and the horrible realization that we are now forced to become someone new against our wishes, without those we love. They die. We are left the sacred challenge of being born. Joanne knew this, and you are learning this as well. And so we send you all our love, our support, our condolences. You are not alone. So for a life that was extraordinarily well lived, a life of service, a life of giving, a life of friendship and love, we bid shalom to Joanne Pepper, Yoselchana, Bat Yaakov V'liba, Zichrona Levracha. May her memory be for an eternal blessing, and let us all say amen. I want to call Rabbi Foster, who knew her so well.
I do know how to do these myself.
It's my honor.
That's all right. Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu, our God and God of all generations, thou who governest all things with infinite wisdom and mercy, and who guidest the destinies of all of humankind. As a parent have you loved us and showered your blessings upon us. Therefore we shall not murmur even when sorrow befalls us, but with humility and unfaltering trust we shall accept your decrees. In joy and in sorrow alike we praise your goodness and acknowledge your justice. We remember that we are but strangers upon earth. Like a shadow, our life flees away. Help us, O God, to walk in your sight, that when the few years of our earthly pilgrimage are ended, we may be ready to meet our end with tranquil mind. To thee we look for comfort and strength when one of our beloved is taken from us, and a link is broken in the chain of love which binds us together. Though we walk in the valley of the shadow of death, we shall fear no evil, for you are with us. Praised, O eternal our God, in all your dispensations. Sanctified be your name now and forevermore. Your family, dear friends, please allow me just a few minutes, and I promise that it won't be longer. Where did Jackie go? There's Jackie. Jackie, I know her best in this room. When I've gone too long. Okay? Okay, thanks. Please give me just a few moments to add to these very, very beautiful remarks that have been made. Except yours, Rick. I think they could have used a little bit of humor anyway. It's always difficult to come to moments like this. And I don't care what the circumstances are. When people live a long life and death comes as a friend because it takes them away from difficulties, that's a blessing. When death comes suddenly, and it really has, this is a sudden death. Even though I know your mother was older and your grandma was older and a great-grandma, I know that. It's still a sudden death. Where else can you find someone who had a locker mate, Sally Gart, at Gove Junior High School and died that same day with Sally Gart across the table from her? I don't know whether you use the new cards or the old cards, but it doesn't matter. The truth is that Joanne was a very special person, because that is just an example of what she was really all about. I said to the cantor and to the rabbi before we walked in, I said, I have to do what I'm going to do right now, even though many of you have heard this, but Flory especially the last few days a lot. But forgive me, Flory, okay? You have a task. Actually, you have 4 tasks. And I'm really giving this to the grandchildren first, because you have to think about this in terms of what you do in the future. First task, as you were doing earlier and you will do today and tomorrow and the next day and for months to come, as different memories come up, you have to grieve for your loss. It's not something that just comes and goes. I realize that we are all here because we had a relationship with her. And yeah, she was a force, but she was a builder. We all had a relationship with her, and it's important that we come here, the rest of us, not just to express our condolences to the family, but to learn something ourselves. We have to grieve in some ways as well. Second task is to wonder at the mystery of death. It's really easy to thank God for the miracle of birth. Great-grandchildren, how wonderful. Sometimes it's hard for us to understand the mystery of death. And it may mean something different to each and every one of us in this room. We as human beings have been on this earth for a long time. And we've been thinking about this for a long time, because each of us will have to cross over that moment. And we don't know what lies on the other side. As I've said so many times, thousands of times, people ask me, Rabbi, what's going to happen when I die? I say I have 2 answers. Number 1, I don't know because I haven't been there. And number 2, I am not anxious to find out. And they're both the truth, because we don't know what's going to be there on the other side, and we all think different things. Third task is to remember who she was. Yeah, remember the boxing match. It's a wonderful image. Remember it. Remember the joys, remember the sorrows, remember the strengths, the fulfillments, and the disappointments, because they're all a part of 88 years of life. And you guys, especially the grandchildren, you don't have as many of those years to remember. Other people do. But remember what you have. And then most important, pass that on to those wonderful grandchildren I met yesterday. And the one thing I took away from yesterday, I took a quarter of a cookie away too, I understand. But they all talked about cookies. That's what they wanted, cookies. Pass who she was on to them. That's how you'll give her immortality. And in some ways, I really do believe that's what this day is about. It's about giving her that sense of immortality. I know that we live in many ways. And I know that sometimes life can be difficult. The loss of the people that are closest to us, for her, was difficult. But she didn't stop. Oh, maybe she wanted to. Maybe there were times that she wanted, but she didn't stop, and there's a reason, I think. Her parents divorced when she was 7 years old, and she was really an only child, more or less. She was an only child. If you think about what she did in life, attach it to being an only child at 7 whose parents have finally decided to divorce. She was a builder and a connector. And that's what her role in life was. All the things that everybody said today. What was it about? It was about rebuilding connections that she didn't have. Building a family out there. All of us, we were a part of her family in some miraculous way. It's not an accident that Sally and she were playing Maj the day before, because all of her connections were old connections. That's what she did. She built those relationships. And that's what she was about. She was about bringing people together. Because in some ways, I think there was a loneliness, especially when she was young. She didn't want that to happen. And so why do all of us think about her as that person that we could embrace? Because that's who she was. That's what you have to remember about her. She had fun, and she made life fun for all of you. And that's what this day is about. It's about remembering the friend, remembering the video pioneer. Joyce told me this morning, because I had forgotten. I said yesterday, yeah, I saw that cookbook. It wasn't a cookbook at all. She and Jackie made the first tape. Now, what was that about? I remember seeing it because they wanted to make the connection between generations. Truly, that's what that was about. They could have easily just written all that stuff, but they wanted to connect with the next generation because that is who she was and what she was about. So if you take nothing else away from this day, I hope you will take away that that was the person that she wanted to be in life. She will always want to be remembered as that connector. I want to finish with this wonderful poem. I've read this many times too. Someone who's been here as long as I have, you can't help but repeat some things, right? But I think it's appropriate for her. It's called The Messenger. Poet wrote, I am closer than ever before. As the morning sun rises and throughout the busy day, I am with you. Until the setting sun disappears on the horizon and we watch the day turn into night, I am here. You may feel a faint breeze stir around your head while you slumber as I gently kiss your forehead goodnight. The stars that shine so brightly in my heavenly sky, help me watch over you and keep you from harm. I am the wind in the trees and the song of a bird. I am moonbeams in a midnight sky and a glorious rainbow after the storm. I am morning dew and freshly fallen snow. I'm a butterfly flying overhead and a puppy happily at play, or even great-grandchildren happily at play. I'm a smile on a stranger's face, a gentle touch, a warm embrace. Listen to the wind for my message of love. Watch the sun rise and set in the sky with me. Feel my essence encircle you with warm memories. Open your heart to know I am not gone. Reach deep into your soul, you will find me. I am here. Have no fear. I am with you always. We hope and pray that you as a family will find comfort and strength in her memory, and that days will bring real healing for the sadness that you all feel. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevarach me'atav yad olam. God has given. God has taken away. Praise be the name of God now and forevermore. And let us all say together, Amen.
Into your care, O God, we entrust the spirit of Joanne Pepper. For you keep faith with your children in death as in life. God, sustain us that we may meet with serenity the mysteries that lie ahead, knowing that when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you, God, are with us, a loving friend in whom we put our trust. You are the light of our life, our hope in eternity. I'm going to ask us now to rise as we are able for the El Maleh Rachamim.
El Maleh Rachamim. Shochen Bamromim Hamsei Menucha Nechona Achat Kanfei Ashchina Im Kedoshim Udehorim Kezoar Harakia Mazhirim Et Nishmat Et Nishmat Yasochana Bar Yosei Yaakov Eliba Shalecha Leolama Borachamim Yostiru Bezeite Kenafav Leolamim Bitzror HaChaim Et Nishmata Adonai Unachalata V'tanuach V'shalom Al Mishkava V'nomar Amen.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant rest in your sheltered presence to Joanne T. Pepper, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in the shadow of your wings. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace, and let us all say, Amen. My friends, the family has asked that I let you know that they will be observing the mourning period at the home of Callie and Kid Cardillo at 5985 South Ironton Court in Englewood. Today, immediately following burial, until conclusion of the Minion service, which starts at 7 o'clock p.m. Tomorrow from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., again with the Minion service at 7 o'clock p.m. Jim?
Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude our service here at Temple Emmanuel. We'll have burial at Mount Nebo Memorial Park. We do have an escorted procession, so if you'd like to join us for interment, we'll ask you to return to your cars as quickly as possible. Please don't delay with conversation in the foyer. If you make your way to your cars, and if you can start lining up facing the southeast exit of our synagogue parking lot. And one last request is if you would also have your hazards on. If you're not going to the cemetery, if we can ask you to give way to those who are and ask you to use the northeast exit of the synagogue. We'll ask you to remain in your places as we invite the pallbearers and honorary pallbearers forward. And one last request is if you do run into the family in the foyer or restroom, please allow them to do what they need to do so they can get to their car and on their way to the cemetery.
Adonai ro'i lo echsar, yinodeshe yarbitzeni al mimenuchot yinahaleni, nafshi yeshovev, yancheni b'ma'agle tzedek lema'an shemo, gan ki elech begeit salmavet, lo irara ki ata imadi, shiftecha mishantecha hem yanachamuni, ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sorarai, dishanta vashemen roshi kosi revaya, ach Tov v'chesed yudafuni kol yemei chayai. V'shavti b'veit Adonai la'orech yamim. God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. Lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever.